Mark, you got this. You rehearsed it. Let's have some fun. Optimal productivity, feeling good about yourself, getting unstuck. When it comes to these aspects of personal growth, most people don't tell you about the power of self-talk. Rather, they have you tap into some alter ego or, unfortunately, imagine a superhero and that you're the superhero, complete with emerging powers and, of course, secret identity. Or still, they have you identify someone you look up to and simply channel their qualities onto you. I literally stumbled onto all three of these techniques a few years ago. I was in my late 30s and going through one wonky transition. My son Zach was just born. I was riding the ups, downs, and all arounds that come from co-parenting. I'd fallen out of love with both my doctoral program and an over decade-long career in higher education. I was in a funk. And if you're like me, when you become despondent, you put yourself in the role of a tragic victim, one where the universe does not have your back. You become so pessimistic things won't change, you simply throw up your arms in frustration. Even worse, you have these highly negative, harsh conversations with yourself, saying things to yourself you'd never say to another person. That victim-mindedness, that frustration, those negative conversations all reinforce a feedback loop that makes whatever funk you're in even funkier. Furthermore, for me, I was beginning to see myself in a negative light, but not only that, but I was seeing the world as a hostile place. I had become the most negative, positive psychologist in the land. In an effort to disrupt that loop, I did the most obvious, brilliant, commonsensical, middle-aged, new thing that any PhD with a new kid would do. I bought a pair of roller skates and tried out for the Atlanta men's roller derby crew. We got some middle-aged people up in the audience too with some brilliant ideas, and I was serious about it. I strolled into my first practice, prepped to disrupt the funk with my fresh new skates. Our team captain, DJ Jazzy Ref, introduced himself and said, what's your name? Mark? Mark, is that your derby name? Your roller derby name is a nickname that a skater gives themselves that's an extension of themselves. Nicknames like minivan driver. She uses her nickname to own her identity as a proud mother and one hard roller derby hitter. Or the great quadratic abrasion, who will forever be remembered with her doctorate in mathematics. So when DJ Jazzy Ref asked if Mark was my derby name, I paused, looked at my teammates, and said, I'm Vanilla Ice. And with that declaration, I concocted a superheroic alter ego who somehow channeled a one-hit wonder from the 90s. And boy, did that not do the trick for disruption. Within a week of my first practice, I was in an orthopedic surgeon's aptly named Dr. Payne examination room, waiting the diagnosis on an elbow injury. All the while, that negative inner self-talk chirped in my mind. How selfish! What kind of dad does this? You're a stupid idiot. Dr. Payne eventually returned with the results. Manila, you have what we call a triple threat. Your elbow is broken, dislocated, and hyperextended. Thanks for nothing, superheroes, alter egos, and one-hit wonders from the 90s. But the sobering truth was I was given a 5 to 10% chance of making any kind of recovery without surgery. Call it an early midlife crisis, or super macho machismo, or just plain stupidity. But I knew I could beat those odds. And I opted out of surgery and into intense physical therapy. Manila, if you're gonna do this, I need 150% effort from you, especially when things get uncomfortable and it feels like you're not making any progress. Deal. And with that said, me, myself, and Manila Ice in unison took the first step to ease on down Dr. Payne's yellow brick road in search of personal happiness, something to pop that funk, and a shiny new elbow. On that journey, I became obsessed with using legitimate positive psychology techniques to bring out the very best in me at a time I desperately needed to consistently show up as my very best. I needed more information on these superheroes, alter egos, and channeling, so I looked at what worked and what didn't. And ever since, I've become passionate about using this research to improve our lives. The first thing I discovered was this: there's an unspoken danger in using all three of these techniques. For example, when it comes to utilizing your alter ego, there's so much more involved than just summoning your second self. It entails self-awareness. It entails time, and sometimes therapy. The work of Carl Jung shows our alter egos reside in a much more shadowy, hidden part of our personalities and can be much more sinister than the amiable, idealized personas that some people claim we can easily access. Like Mr. Hyde to Dr. Jekyll or Sasha Fierce to Beyonce. The alter ego is more powerful, but comes with an explosive side. That's why it requires work when we're working with our alter ego for positive outcomes. Unfortunately, your secret alter ego won't suddenly emerge just because you read a self-help book. The other danger in channeling others or playing superheroes is these techniques don't value who you truly are. It's problematic because you can ostensibly act heroically, but if you don't believe that you're capable of being a hero, if you don't change that skewed internal representation of yourself, if you don't say to yourself and believe you are capable of the extraordinary, now have some fun. You'll experience impostor syndrome. In other words, everything can be going amazing around you, but you'll feel like a fraud on the inside. For a person of color or woman growing up in a predominantly white male society, all of this can be exponentially dangerous and internally damaging. The research spans across multiple disciplines. For example, research from the Netherlands found an interesting behavior in women with anorexia. As the women entered the lab, they would turn sideways, as if the doorway was too narrow for them, even though there was plenty of extra room. While we all have an external reality, such as weight and figure, it doesn't always sync up with our inner perception, such as self-image or body image. Essentially, what you see when you look in the mirror is not always what others see when they look at you. As a kid, I had a skewed view of my Filipino-American identity. I didn't see other Filipino-Americans in the government or the media. The ones I did see played up to a model minority myth, or the perpetual foreigner stereotype. Seeing this shaped an overall negative perception of my own cultural identity, especially when I looked in the mirror and wished I was more like the other kids. So when Halloween rolled around, my sister and I chose characters who we believed could actually be the heroes, people who fit Audre Lorde's mythical norm: white, thin, male, young, heterosexual, Christian, financially secure. This feeling that your identity is somehow inferior to this mythical norm minimizes your strengths. Like two siblings on Halloween playing Batman and Robin. It's mimicry, it's copycatting, and plagiarizing of another person's identity. Fictional or not, Halloween aside, on a daily basis, how can we truly be ourselves if we're constantly chasing other people's personas? If becoming a superhero isn't as simple as some claim, if alter egos don't have the desired effect that some want you to have, how can you actually reach peak performance, be authentically happy, and get unstuck? The key is in the art of self-talk. Now, some of you may be thinking, self-talk is equal to crazy talk, and that's because of the stigma that we put on mental health nowadays. But since we all do it, why not use self-talk to promote mental well-being rather than stigma? Especially because there's 4 major benefits of self-talk. First, you create psychological distance, which allows you to make decisions more objectively while staying rooted in your true self and passions. It serves with emotional regulation. Emotional regulation widens your perspective and helps you see new opportunities. It increases your focus and motivation for peak performance. It's like having your own coach. Finally, self-talk changes the way you see the world, from hostile to hospitable. Given the benefits, here are 2 ways you can immediately incorporate self-talk into your life. First, embrace positive language. Ditch the negative language. I know it's difficult, but negative language completely distorts your inner self-image. Second, use your own name or the pronoun you when talking to yourself. Using your own name activates the self-distance mechanism. A study done by Ethan Kross looked at and had its subjects do a stressful task, namely giving a speech. He divided the subjects in 2 cohorts. The first cohort used I for self-talk preparation. I got this. The second cohort used you or their name in self-talk preparation. Mark, you got this. The cohort that used their names not only delivered better speeches, they also showed lower levels of post-performance shame and anxiety. Personally realizing the benefits of self-talk, me, myself, and Manila Ice used self-talk to beat the odds when it came to physical therapy. We used self-talk to make the Atlanta men's roller derby team. And, oh yeah. And earn the league's Rookie of the Year. But the hits don't stop there. We used self-talk to earn a spot on Team Philippines' national roller derby team in 2018. When the Team Philippines captain asked for my roller derby name, without pause, I said, I'm Marc Cordon. People notice these internal and external changes. After months of rigorous derby practices and consistently using the self-talk technique, one of my coaches, Surfer Rosa, pulled me aside and said, "Manila, you are completely different now than when you first started with us." More than anything else, that was the defining moment of using the self-talk technique. Unlike other techniques, self-talk takes an inside-out approach rather than an outside-in, fake it till you make it, copycat some person you idolize approach. And this is critical for people like myself who don't always look like or fit with society's mythical norm and may have a skewed internal representation of themselves. We live in a world where you can mimic your favorite celebrity one moment and then play a superhero the next. Channeling idols, becoming alter egos, accessing alter egos. It all gets confusing. So much you sacrifice your self-image and cultural identity for superficial success. Through life's challenges, I choose to be this guy. And if I adopt a nickname or alter ego, it'll simply be an extension of myself. Like Vanilla Ice with a splash of self-talk. I will remember who I am and use self-talk to reshape my inner world, pushing beyond life's barriers and creating a personal revolution with grace and ease and joy. So no matter the context, when someone goes to shake my hand, they know it's me and not some facade or mimic who changes alter egos and secret identities at the drop of a hat. So when it comes to your optimal performance, when it comes to you feeling good about yourself, when it comes to you getting unstuck, what is it that you can tell yourself right now? Thank you.